a lot of what we discuss will apply to non-school campuses as well. I'm your host, Stephen Maddock, and I've spent 25 years in the IT industry working with all types of customers from every industry, shape, and size. I've also worked with all types of public entities as well as K through 12 and higher education. And like me, all of our participants today and presenters have a long history of working with this technology and with folks just like you. Today, Wi-Fi Hotshots, who is a local solutions provider working with some of you on this call, is sponsoring this event along with Single Wire, Bassett Cells, and Cisco Meraki, who all together provide the solutions to make campus safety more manageable, meaningful, and most importantly, secure. We anticipate this presentation taking about 45 minutes, and we set aside about 15 minutes for questions. If you have questions, please just put them in the Q&A panel, not the chat panel. We'd prefer the Q&A panel if you can. And our panelists are monitoring the Q&A as we present, so they'll be answering questions along the way. Additionally, we do plan on recording this, so if you have to step away for a bit, you'll be able to catch up or watch it even later if you choose to at your leisure in the future. Our agenda for today is, we'll start off with campus and school safety fundamentals. We'll then have a wonderful interview with Mr. Mike Leathers from Saugus USD, who will cover a few topics. Then we'll do a live but virtual demo for the product in action. And then we'll talk a little bit about some government guidelines for assessment purposes. And then we'll roll into some first responder assessment and Cisco enablement programs that are available to you. So let's hop into it. The good news story. This is what most kids experience on a daily basis during their school day. They're enjoying their friends, their playtime, their lunch, and their school classroom time. Really, kids just being kids. And this is the reality for what happens, statistically speaking, 99.999% of the time around the country. The reality of these statistics are really the safest way for students to get to and from school is a school bus. Bullying is more likely to take place at somewhere else other than school. And the most common injury at an elementary school is an abrasion. Now, but if it happens to your child on your campus or in your neighborhood, none of the above nor the statistics on this topic matter. Some of you may be familiar with the statements from the CTA, which is the California Teachers Association. Here's what they've documented and communicated out as to what school safety is and who has responsibility to ensure school safety. At a high level, it says the school districts and state agencies bear responsibility for student and faculty safety. Further, this safety extends to students from the time they leave home until they return. Additionally, for purposes of this conversation, it also covers safety from abusive behavior, criminal activity, and emergency preparedness. To put into practice what the CTA has laid out, we can refer to the State of California Article 5 titled School Safety Plans, where the requirement for all school districts is to develop a comprehensive school safety plan that addresses the safety concerns identified through a systematic planning process. If you'd like to dig into this a bit more, I've included the link on this page for the website. Keep this article in mind when we circle back to the assessment a little later. Now, I'd like to invite you to listen to a conversation with Mike Leathers from Saugus USD, who implemented technology to address Article 5 and CTA stated objectives regarding campus safety. So let me turn it over to David Karen from Cisco and Mike Leathers. Gentlemen.
Good morning, everyone. My name is David Karen. I'm with Cisco. I'm a solutions architect in the K-12 education space. I've been at Cisco for 22 years, and today I'm pleased to bring on one of my most favorite customers, Mike Leathers from Saugus Union School District. They're actually the local school district in my community. My daughter went to their schools, and Mike is a wonderful customer who has built a fantastic system based on single wire. And I won't steal his thunder here, but Mike, welcome.
Hey, how's it going? Good to see you again.
Mike. Yep. Mike's just, a mile away from me down the street, but we're still here virtually. So anyway, Mike, give me tell me a little about Saugus Union School District.
Sure. So Saugus Union School District has 10,000 students. We have 16 locations. We are a TK through sixth grade environment, so we've got a bunch of the little ones running around.
Great, Mike. And so tell me a little bit about your network. You were actually one of the original Meraki customers, like 9 years ago, and you've been running on
Yes.
it ever since. So tell me a little about your network environment and
Yeah,
your
so
your Cisco UC environment.
we decided to go full stack Meraki. So we go from the firewall all the way to the wireless access point. It's all Meraki equipment at all of my locations. Each of my locations has a dedicated 1 gig internet connection. So there's no coming back to the district office to get their internet connection. We're also a one-to-one Google Chromebook shop as well. So
Excellent. And you're also running on CUCM.
yes, Cisco
well?
Call Manager as well.
Yep. And you're looking at going to cloud or hosted calling at some point, like a lot
Yes,
of folks
very
are.
soon.
But
If I can pull that off, that would be great.
well, yeah, this does work with all this stuff we're going to talk about today. So that's great. So Mike, tell me a little bit. What originally led you to put in the single wire Formacast solution?
Yeah, sure. So we have schools that range in age from the 1950s to the 2000s. And one of my older school had a legacy bell system that also functioned as its PA system. And it was the only way that we had to communicate to all of our rooms at the same time. Well, that system decided to go belly up. So the quickest way that we could possibly get everything in was to put in a single wire paging system. Real quick, we just put it in, plugged it in, and it recognized all of the Cisco phones that were on site, and we immediately were able to page right away, just out of the box. And so that was a relief off of everyone's mind because we had no way to communicate outside of just a direct phone call to everybody. So so we have that system in place, which got me thinking about, okay, so I need to replace the bell system. Single wire has the bell system. It works great. It's easy to use. I don't have to have a Windows 95 machine with a serial cable plug in with special software to reprogram all the bells and all that. It's all, online. It's easy to configure, doesn't take any time. I can train my office staff to actually change the bells if they want to. But in the middle of that, we are just down the hill from us, literally about 100 yards. Saugus High School had a school shooting, and we had to go. Our kids had to go on lockdown. They could hear the gunshots from their playground. Everybody ran inside. And that really opened our eyes into, okay, we need to come up with a better solution to secure our facility. So it wasn't just an electronic solution. We did a lot of enhancements with single entry, points of entry, a lot of gates, fencing, just to get the physical perimeter of the school sites more secure. But we also implemented the a electronic door lock system through Vanderbilt, and we went with the single wire bell system at every site. So we put this in place at this one school that had the problem with the bell system first. And we got it up and going, and a lot of trial and error to get everything to function. The basic functionality of across the board now is we have a complete integration between our door lock system and our single wire emergency notification system. So if you we have two buttons, a blue button, which actually phones the police and locks all the doors and does a broadcast message, or the yellow button. The yellow button actually just locks the school down. It's a soft lockdown, and then we go ahead and broadcast a message as well. So when we put this in place, there's a couple pieces of hardware that go in between to make them talk, but it works really well. We just had a complete review of all 16 of our campuses just in the last 5 days. We decided to go ahead and do that at the beginning of the year. So we went after school, did 3 schools a night, and it was a complete success. It was great. Everything was working exactly as it was designed to do. We were very excited about that.
Excellent. And so, I mean, you've got the benefit. I think the bell system thing is huge. I know it's very simple for your staff to make those updates. They don't have to bother you again to get the old laptop out or
Yep.
some arcane
No,
thing to update something from the
that was the
60s. Yeah.
original selling feature, was just to get a new bell system. But then I started getting into this emergency notification and all of the functionality that was out there on the single wire system. So the really nice thing about the single wire was that it will broadcast not only over our overhead speakers, which some of them are IP speakers, but some of them are our legacy speakers that we've had in there forever. It'll go over the phones, and it will go over our interactive flat panel TVs with a little message that pops up. Hey, we're in lockdown. Are you okay? And then you can respond. And so yeah, there's a whole lot of functionality out there that we are using, and it really makes everybody feel a lot safer here.
Yeah, and that's excellent. And you'll see, folks, you'll see later in the webinar what we're talking about. But I mean, the single wire integrates with everything. You can have, like Mike said, IP speakers, old PA amps, all kinds of stuff get notified and also trigger notifications. And so, Mike, thank you very, very much for your time here talking about this. He and I have spoke at Cisco Live about this. We may even be speaking at ISTE about this next year. But so one thing is, Mike talked about the blue button and the button, how everything works. I have a 5-minute video here up on YouTube, and I have an easy link to it: cs.co/lockdown. It's a full 5-minute demo. It goes in one of the closets in the school and shows you the equipment in there, and then we do a demonstration of the system and how everything works and how the alerts go and all that. So I highly encourage you to take 5 minutes and take a look at that video. It will kind of show you how this thing is working in real life, although we will be doing some demos here on this session as well. So again, thank you, Mike, and I'm going to turn this over to Mr. Doug Glenn from SingleWire.
Thank you very much, Mike and David. Today, my name is Doug Glenn from SingleWire. I manage Southern California and worked with David and Mike on that opportunity. So what I'm going to talk about today is how we kind of glue all this technology together to make a very safe environment. So SingleWire is software. We work with a bunch of different ecosystem partners. We are pivotal on this Cisco capability. So if we look at the different types of use cases that we use, or that we support, primarily it's life and safety type emergencies. So anything from what we were talking about just there, an active shooter type situation. It could be a weather event. I know in Southern California, thankfully, we don't have a lot of crazy weather, but we do have fires. So a lot of fire warning type information, a disruptive student potentially, a medical emergency, or any kind of drill, like a fire drill or an earthquake protection drill. During the last few years, we've actually seen it used, and currently as well, for a lot of different pandemic-related type events, which could be anything from a health check-in to students or staff start showing symptoms. How do I evacuate a room and do some contact tracing afterwards? And then what's interesting is during the pandemic, we also saw facilities less occupied. So there was actually an increase in the amount of events we saw on break-ins and vandalism. So a lot of people wanted different integrations into things like video surveillance or access control that Mike alluded to there. And then the third thing really is just more operational type events. So an IT outage, maybe a cyber attack, maybe some other type of weather event, et cetera, et cetera. So lots of different use cases that people are using us for. If we look at us in the middle here as the software, we're gluing together a bunch of different infrastructure. So on the left-hand side of this diagram, we really have all of the trigger points, and they can be manual or they can be automated. On the right-hand side, what makes this a really unique solution is that we are one of the only solutions out there that ties on-premise technology, mobile technology, and collaboration all together in one environment. So you never know where you're going to be when an event happens. So I need to be able to trigger from wherever I am, and I need to be able to receive that no matter where I am. So if we look at this really quickly from a 40,000 foot view, and this is a lot of stuff, right? So what we do is we talk with our customers about what key things they want to enable. And you'll see there at the top of the slide, the key thing there is investment protection and future proofing. So there's a number of things you'll turn on today. And then, oh, by the way, it'll be available to you if you want to integrate some of these things later on. So I don't want you to think that this is a bunch of different things that have to happen all at once. So if we look at the left-hand side, it could be something as easy as I pick up my Cisco phone and I trigger either a dial cast pattern to trigger an event, or I have a soft key on there to trigger a scenario. It could be from my mobile device, both iOS and Android. One of the key things that we see with emergency notification is that it needs to be really simple to train people on how to use this system, and also easy to manage. So we have used, we've put in place a command center type functionality. So both from my user interface or from my mobile device, I've got really easy to push buttons, and I can just trigger an event. I can ask a question to that person if I want, like emergency lockdown, and it presents which site, and I can select the elementary school and push go. So we've tried to make it really simplistic. You know, in a high adrenaline charge event, people forget what to do, and you don't want that to happen. So that will take care of that issue. One thing that we'll talk about today is panic buttons. So panic buttons have become, of late, very, very sought after for a lot of different reasons. You never know where you're going to be when you might need access to a panic button, and maybe I can't get to the panic button. So what we're seeing is I could use my Cisco phone and have a panic button on it. I could have a panic button on my computer. I could have a panic button on my mobile device, which I'll show you in a bit here. I could actually have a panic button on a wearable. So maybe I have a badge. This is another partner of ours where I can have a trigger panic button on the back of my lanyard badge. So the key element here is no matter where you are, you can get to and trigger a notification to the people that need to get engaged at that moment in time. More automated type events could be those weather events. We do have a great integration with Cisco where if somebody dials 911 from their Cisco phone, we can not only alert people, and this helps manage a lot of the new federal laws and things that are coming out about notifying people locally. We complement, for those of you that have Cisco Emergency Responder, this is a complement to that. And what it does is it will alert people on site on any of that technology in the green box that you see there, that somebody's dialed 911 from a specific classroom or a specific extension. And we can even record the call and pass that with it, so they can get context about what's happening, so that they might be able to assist that individual before first responders actually show up. Some future stuff that you might want to also consider, and we're going to talk about this here a little bit further with Cisco Meraki, is we can integrate into video cameras. We can integrate with access control systems. Or even plug into the fire alarm system. So there's a lot of things that are physical type security systems that we can also work with. And where are we sending those notifications? We're sending them to on-premise devices over here. So to my Cisco phones, because we're natively integrated into those, to my computers, to my IP speakers. You're going to hear from Atlas today. I might have some older analog paging systems. Maybe I have some security personnel or maintenance people walking around with two-way radios. I want to be able to alert those devices. Maybe I'm mobile and I have the app downloaded onto my phone, or I actually want to just receive it and have opted in to receive it as a text message. That app, by the way, is extremely powerful because not only can I receive a message in it, but I can actually trigger, obviously, an event from the app, which I'll show you here shortly. And I can even manage the situation from there. So if there was a active shooter event, I'm not running back into the building if it's my job to manage this and logging on and taking a look at what's going on. I'm going to do it from outside where I'm safe. I can do a pre-recorded phone call to a cell phone, and obviously I can email. And then I could shoot into a Cisco WebEx team space, and I could actually trigger a conference call. This is a very popular capability, which gives you the ability to let's say I push my emergency lockdown. I want to dial out to my local security team. I want to dial out to my local police force. I want to dial in my superintendent or my principal. And we're all speaking in real time about who needs to do what. What we find is that in emergencies, every second counts, and you need to make sure everybody's on the same page at that time. Okay? So what I'm going to do now is just talk very briefly about to elaborate a little bit about the duress package that we have. So we'll do a few slides of this and then jump into a demo. So what, again, we've seen is a lot of people asking, especially around K-12, for some kind of duress type solution. Again, not knowing where you're going to be. So we have the ability to trigger from a mobile device, like a panic button, trigger from a wearable, trigger from my desktop, and trigger from my Cisco phone. And how does this work? Well, it gives you the ability to trigger from all those different devices there on the left and then send a message to everything on the right. So when I have pressed my panic button, I could be alerting a safety and security desk where it could come up on their Cisco phone. It could come up on their cell phone if they're walking around campus. It could pop up on their computer. It could actually come over, a message could actually come over an Atlas speaker in that room. So there's lots of ways that we can then notify people, no matter where they're at, that I might need some additional assistance. One of the things we're adding later on this year is going to be when I actually trigger that event, it will also have the option where it could go straight to the PSAP. So I don't want it to be going to an on-site security desk on its own. I also want it to go straight to emergency services. And then we'll have a dispatcher coordinating that response. We're working with a company called Rapid SOS to enable that. And one key thing that will help fulfill with school districts is the Alyssa's Law requirements that are coming in. So those are some of the duress package elements that we'll be adding later this year. Now what I'm going to do is let's visualize this, because there's quite a lot to see here in terms of what it actually provides you. So if we look at, this is a demo room that I have where I've got a bunch of different things in here. What am I looking at? I've got some Cisco phones. I've got some Atlas speakers that we're going to look at a little bit deeper here in a second with Kim Walsh. And I've got some digital signage. I got a couple of strobes. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to actually trigger an emergency lockdown, and we can visually take a look at what's transpired in this room. Remember, you could trigger this from anywhere. I'm actually triggering it from my user interface, but it could have just been from my Cisco phone or my cell phone. So let's go ahead and trigger that right now.
Please follow lockdown procedures and wait for the all-clear notification.
Okay, so what's great about this, you can see, is there's flashers on these Atlas speakers, and I can scroll text and I can change the color. Now, what's relevant about that is if I have deaf or hard of hearing individuals on site, they're not going to be able to consume that message. So how am I going to do that? I'm going to do it visually. And so these Atlas speakers are going to be very powerful in helping assist with that. I also have the ability, because we have such native integration with the Cisco phone system, to put text onto the phone. If it's color capable, I can actually change the color on that device. I did have audio go through there as well. And I also can even ask people to respond to a status question. You know, you'll see for this one, I have safe inside the building, safe outside the building, or I need help. We call that a confirmation. So I could respond right from my Cisco phone by pushing this respond button and clicking on the choice that I need to. You'll also see, if I zoom back out here, we did put some wording on that digital signage. And I also had this pop up on my other screen on my laptop. So we have a variety of different desktop notifier capabilities, different formats. This is a medium-sized box. I could have taken over the entire screen if I was a teacher or a professor presenting, it could have taken over my entire screen. And this is all customizable. So I got an image, I got wording, I can have my logo, whatever color you want, and I can ask people to respond right from their computer. And so here you'll see those 3 responses I talked about. I can just say, hey, I need help. So again, safe inside the building, I need help, or safe outside the building, and I can choose that. And that teacher would get a confirmation knowing that whoever's monitoring this knows that they've been noted. And then they can close that down. On my mobile device, I basically have my iOS app here, and I can just tap into that. That message came into me. And again, I can look at this, I can listen to it again, and I can confirm right from my mobile device. So maybe I'm working from home today, I'm safe outside the building, and I can confirm. Okay, and I get a success message. If I'm actually the person monitoring this from outside, I can actually tap on here and push view stats, and it'll show me how people are responding so that I can follow up with those individuals or escalate to people that haven't read the message. This will just build out on its own. I can say, hey, who needed help? Doug from his desktop, Eric from extension 101, or classroom 101. And I could, or people that have just opted in to receive it as a text message. Then we'll actually just see it here as a text message, and they can respond too, just by texting back 1, 2, or 3. And I can continue to follow up with those individuals. So it gives you a lot of functionality here to manage that event from anywhere. Now, if I want to then go back out here and actually trigger an event from my mobile device, this is my command center. So from here, I can actually trigger back. I can say, hey, the event's over now. I want to do an all clear message. I can actually go all clear and select which building, which school name. I'm going to say building 3, and I'm going to send that message.
This is the all clear. Please resume normal activity.
Okay, so that's gone off to all those other devices as well. And actually, given my all clear message, this also popped up on my laptop. So a good way that I can basically receive on the cell phone, trigger from the cell phone, and actually manage the event from the cell phone. One last thing I'm going to show you here from my mobile device is also our panic button. So from here, I can do my mobile panic button. Again, this will put me on a map and allow the safety and security team to get to me. So maybe I'm walking to my car. I feel like somebody's following me. I don't feel safe. I want to say panic button. It is a 2 push, so you accidentally don't trigger this. It also meets a federal guideline around you have to let people know you're going to start tracking them. You do have to have the app on your phone to do this. So we're just saying you're about ready to share your location with your organization, and I'm going to press send. Now, I happen to be the person that actually is managing this as well. So you'll see I got that pink box. But for the individual that pressed the button, they're just going to get this message, which is also customizable. So you'll see I just said if you're in imminent danger, dial 911. That individual doesn't have to back out and dial 911. They can just press that quick dial 911 box and they can get assistance. But if I wanted to, if I'm the person that's actually managing this, I can see Doug Bland just push the panic button. And where is Doug? I can view his location. So I can see where Doug is on a map. I can then do a follow-up down here by pressing this follow-up button, or I can just tap get directions to Doug. Maybe I'm driving around campus. I just want to go directions, and I can get directions to where Doug is. So if I'm a safety and security person walking around campus, or I'm at my desk, I can either manage this from my laptop, or I can manage it like we've shown here right from the cell phone. Okay, so with that, I'm actually going to hand over to Kim Walsh, who's going to talk a little bit more about our integration with Atlas speakers.
Good morning. My name is Kim Walsh, and I'm with Bassett Sales, and I'm here today representing Atlas IED. For 85 years, Atlas has engineered, designed, and manufactured speakers of the highest of intelligibility for the pro audio industry. When you think about it, speech intelligibility is really the most critical factor in communicating during an emergency event. About 20 years ago, Atlas partnered with Cisco and SingleWire Informicast to produce an IP endpoint that registers to the phone system as though it were simply another phone. So all these devices you're seeing here are in actuality a SIP phone. This is only a small offering of the items that Atlas offers, but this is an outdoor horn speaker. This is an enclosed horn speaker. This is your classroom clock speaker. And this is a dual-sided display for corridors and hallways. For a complete showing of all the IP endpoints Atlas offers, please go to atlasieb.com and take a look. Now, with SingleWire and Formicast, these are going to enunciate the bell schedule. That's really just a WAV file that you can download. What we did for our demo is we downloaded a traditional bell sounding system, and it rings just like the traditional bell. But you could download any WAV file. We actually have a school that on Friday, the last bell of the day that signifies the end of the school week and the beginning of the weekend, they play the Star Wars theme song. So you can get kind of creative and have some fun with it. In addition to enunciating the bell schedule, of course, we can enunciate live broadcast announcements or pre-recorded messages. With the Informicast, we can change the color of the background. So if it's a fire or a lockdown, will be red. If it's a weather alert or earthquake, it might go yellow. And an all clear would be green, and so on. The functionality that's built into each of these IP endpoints can be that flasher that acts as a strobe to really get your attention and make you look at the speaker. The high resolution LCD display changes from a clock and takes speech and translates it to text that scrolls from left to right across the screen. Saw that. These devices can also have a microphone built into them. That microphone acts to turn this into a two-way intercom device. We also have what we call general purpose inputs and outputs built into each of these, are GPIOs. These can be used in a variety of different ways. We can use one of the inputs to trigger a call button to place a call to the front desk or the administrative office. Perhaps you have a medical emergency in the classroom and you need the school nurse to be dispatched immediately to that classroom. In my demo here, I'm using it as a lockdown, and I'm locking down the entire Bassett sales office with it. I'm not triggering it from the software like Doug did, so you'll see in the demonstration, when I do depress this button, it's actually going to place a call to Informicast, and it has to hang up. So the scrolling screen display will be slightly lagging on this one from the other items in the building.
Emergency lockdown. Bassett Sales has issued a lockdown. Please follow lockdown procedures and wait for the all-clear notification.
So each of these devices is going to require an Informicast license, an IP address, and a single Ethernet cable plugged into them, powered over a PoE plus switch. And as referenced earlier, how we integrate those analog amplifiers and horn speakers is with a gateway or zone controller, as we call it. This basically encodes that analog signal and converts it to IP. So it drops it onto the same network as all the rest of your IP endpoints, and they're all playing the same message altogether. So in conjunction with Informicast, the Atlas IP endpoints really make a perfect solution for your paging needs and emergency requirements. Thank you very much for inviting me to speak today. That's all I have.
Great. Thanks, Kim. Thanks, everybody, really. Doug, what a great virtual demonstration, even though we all have to be here behind the screens. What a fantastic job. Thank you so much. So where to start? Earlier, excuse me, earlier we covered the CTA and Article 5 school safety plan from the California State Legislature. Here, you can use this link on the page to see what the California State Department of Education tools are, including some really good resources in addition to a PDF that gives you some framework to track your progress against the required elements. At a high level, on the next slide, are the areas of focus that you can use to guide as guideposts to assess where you are and where you need to go. We call these affectionately the 5Ds. Here, we want to give you a little more detail on what might be important for your campus as you again evaluate where you are on the roadmap to securing a safe student and faculty environment. And then, excuse me, and then we wanted to give you some do-it-yourself questions that you can use today to start thinking about how your district and or your campus leadership might think about some of the areas that can provide a much safer environment. Before I turn it over to Mashfiq from Cisco, I wanted to provide you with a site where funding may be available for your district. There may be several funding options on the COPS, affectionately called U.S. Department of Justice site, so click on the link we've provided here to check it out. Additionally, having an assessment performed by this team that's on the call often identifies multiple areas of risk mitigation, amongst which often free up money to help in the funding of these solutions. With that, let me turn it over to Mashfiq, who is a K-12 expert with Cisco.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So I wanted to cover a couple of important topics. This is Mushfiq Khan, by the way. So I'm part of the SoCal team here with Meraki. And first of all, I think, just to kind of piggyback off the conversation with Mike Leathers from Saugus, when an incident does happen at a school, it's important to have a very, I guess, holistic approach to security, right? Having maybe the right blind spots covered, ensuring that you've got a, maybe a plan of exit in case something does happen. And in order to facilitate all those different elements that are involved in making sure that security cameras are placed in appropriate areas to avoid some of these issues that can happen, what we typically do is a security camera assessment at each site. And what this involves is about a 1 to 3 hour survey of each individual site. And this involves a full walkthrough with the team, the school district, and we assess all sorts of vulnerabilities within the property. And this helps us make sure that whatever camera design we do put in, that it has the most robust design possible to really cover all the blind spots and really have a good plan of execution in case something does happen. And at the end of this survey, this assessment, we do have a report that we work with these districts on. So that has all the design recommendations, guidance on where to put each of the individual cameras, as well as the build of what a sample set of cameras to accomplish that that design looks like. If you could go to the next slide. And so in order to make this as easy as possible for our customers to adopt, we do have a couple programs in place. And if you've got questions like what do we do with maybe the most recent technology investment that we've made, or if there was some maybe existing technology purchases in the last couple of years and maybe there isn't enough budget on the table to kind of make all of this happen, we do have a generous buyback program where we can buy back some of your older equipment in order to make this migration as easy as possible. And in conjunction with that, we also have a K-12 funding program. So we've been working with our K-12 customers very closely for the last couple of decades and just making sure it's as easy to adopt as possible, just given how the funding cycles work at K-12 and some of the challenges involved this day and age here to facilitate some of those purchases. If you can go to the next slide.
I think we are done. Mashfiq,
So if you don't mind, I just have one or two other things I wanted to share. Is it possible to share the screen here? Awesome. So Just to wrap up the slide component, just a quick thank you to all sorts of districts that we've been working with very closely here in Southern California to put together these solutions. So Walnut Valley Unified School District, Colton Joint, Redondo Beach Unified, Ontario Montclair. So just a big thank you to all of these districts that we've been working very closely with for these types of solutions. And just to kind of double click a little bit on what the solution actually entails, I just wanted to go through a couple of minutes of what we're doing in this space. So first of all, the way the camera architecture works, it is dramatically simpler than what's out there in traditional camera systems. And the way it is that there's no separate NVR required, so any sort of video storage system required on site to enable these cameras to work, right? And that dramatically simplifies a lot of the architecture and the daily management that's involved to run these cameras, right? And so with our solution, all of the storage is on board, and anytime you're accessing the footage, we create a secure connection to that camera to be able to pull up that feed. And so the physical cameras itself, just a quick 9,000 foot overview, we've got a variety of different indoor, outdoor models, compact fixed lens cameras, fisheye lenses for 360-degree coverage. We've got some models with expanded storage for, in case you're looking for that ultra long retention time. We do have as well some different focal points or lengths. So if you're looking for more of a narrower field of view, maybe you're looking to get more details on who's coming in and out of a particular area, or maybe a wider field of view to understand what's kind of happening across a whole space. So just a variety of models to facilitate a lot of different use cases. MV52 here being a bullet camera, so being able to kind of make out anything in a parking lot, further distances, license plate recognition. So a whole variety of different applications there. And so just wanted to touch on the hardware real quick. But one of the biggest things I just wanted to kind of drill home here outside of simplicity is that by going with this type of solution, we're really moving from a reactive model of physical security to more of a proactive model. And how do we accomplish that? And one, once you jump in a dashboard, you'll notice the interface is a lot simpler and easier to kind of manage than traditional camera systems you might be familiar with. All I pulled up here, give me a second, I loaded this a second ago, so it timed out on me. One of the things, for example, if I go here to our headquarters and look up an individual camera, as I pull up the feed, one of the things I can quickly do is a motion search, for example, right? So instead of having to look through hours of footage to identify a incident of interest, I can quickly do a search exactly on a part of frame where maybe I drop something along the way of climbing that staircase. So I can pull up an associated feed that might be relevant. Maybe that was me going up and down the stairs. I can go ahead and play the video. It looks like there was an issue with that particular clip. Give me 1 second here. So once I do have that clip open, I can also share a export, right? So if I wanted to clip out that part of the frame that was of interest, automatically gets saved as a MP4 file. I can get it, retrieve it locally later, etc. So it makes it very easy to send out to police responders, anyone who might need to take a look at those cameras. I can also share an internal link for anyone within your organization, within the district. I can share it externally with the police officers and such. I can have local copies saved again. And then outside of motion alerts, the motion search, we do have motion alerts as well. So, just in case, maybe you've got some loitering off premise, or maybe you need to get an understanding of, any passerbys at a specific time of day, I can quickly set up a schedule. So maybe only when school hours are happening. I can set up that schedule. And what'll happen is, as long as it meets these specific triggers, it's in a certain amount of time. Maybe there's person detected, so this looks for people within the frame. We select a area of interest, and it gives you a message on how many alerts you can expect based on these settings. So obviously this is a little high, so it would probably make sense to adjust that event duration just to eliminate some of those false positives, right? So this is just one way we're making sure all the alerts and such that you're getting are meaningful, and that you're not wasting time going through kind of extraneous events that might not be related. Outside of that, we also understand there's a lot of different folks that might be looking at these cameras, and breaking up that role-based access control could be also very important for a lot of districts. So here, if we wanted to maybe create additional folks to view, export, maybe look at individual cameras, I can easily add additional users. I can give them access to specific cameras. Maybe this is a contractor working on the deck, so I can open up access just to that specific camera. Cool. That's a very high level overview. I just wanted to touch on again two kind of common themes here. So simplicity being one of them, right? So really removing some of those extraneous pieces of hardware that's typically involved in running these systems. And then two, really being able to move from, again, a reactive model where, you're looking up events retroactively. Maybe it's taking you several hours to pull up an incident of interest, to being more proactive, getting motion alerts to quickly jump into an incident as it happens, right? So that's pretty much it from my component here. Let me know if there's any questions on any of that.
Yeah, thanks, Mushfiq. That was fantastic, and I think that really resonates with probably those folks on the call and the webinar today, and those who may see this later, is just that simplicity, but that proactive nature that really isn't available out there other than this solution. So thanks for providing that to us. That was great insight, and thanks to all of those who Kim and again Doug, and what a great segue. I wanted to just add one thing to what you just shared, which is the assessment. And as you pointed out, that camera assessment, which is provided by first responders, is really great, to provide as a way for schools to begin that assessment process. And in addition to that, this team provides a very comprehensive assessment that includes all areas to secure a campus. So with that in tandem, it really is a whole comprehensive, holistic approach on how we provide assessments. Now, Mushfiq, I know you're not on here on the thank you list and contact information, so if you wouldn't mind unmuting yourself for a minute and just providing your email address information, and maybe putting it in the Q&A window or something where everybody could see it. Okay, so it's just mushfkha@cisco.com. Thank you so
Perfect.
much. Yeah.
Yeah, thank
Great.
you, Stephen.
Yeah, no problem. And I know we had a number of folks who joined on the call today, which was great, and we really appreciate everybody's attendance. Hopefully, the content that we provided here was valuable not only now, but in the future. And if you're watching this at a later date, please know that you can reach out to us. We're happy to do another webinar, or even an individual demonstration of everything that you saw on this call and much more. As you can imagine, this was an abbreviated version, even though it was fairly in depth and provided a lot of information. This, as all of us would probably attest to, was abbreviation of what you actually can do with the tools that we've shared with you and the team that's on this call. We are really one group, one team, and we're here to really help our clients put together a comprehensive solution that not only meets but exceeds whatever it is that you're looking to accomplish when it comes to security and securing a campus. I'm going to open it up to the rest of the panelists to just see if there's any commentary or questions that we might have. There's about 9 minutes left before our time is up here on this call. So I'll throw it back out to those on this call. If there's anything on the panelist side that you guys would like to share, and again, if you have questions as part of the participants, please throw those in the Q&A. We're excited to answer those questions and get back to you if we can't answer them on this call. And with that, I'll turn it back to the panelists. Is there anybody who has anything they'd like to share that we haven't talked about, or maybe a little more in depth on what we have talked about?
Yeah, thanks, Stephen. I'll just chip in one last thing here. That was a very abbreviated demo that we normally do around safety and security. If you'd like to get a hold of Wi-Fi, Hotshots, or Cisco, we can do a much more in-depth demo for you, which would actually go through the specific requirements or use cases that you're looking to fulfill. And if you were to do that, we also offer some demo software for a period of time for you to be able to try that in your own environment. So please don't hesitate to reach out to anybody on this call to get that queued off, and we can make sure to actually deep dive into your specific environment.
Great point around use cases, and really that's the thing that is the anchor of which we look to when we build out not only the demo as you described, Doug, but really the overall solution. You heard earlier Mike Leathers speak from Saugus USD, who really began his journey on what is it that we were looking to accomplish. And if you start from that perspective and you're thinking about the outcome that you want to achieve, it really does allow for you to build upon those use cases that are most important. So, the technology in essence is capable of doing so much that it really does, it really becomes very important. And I think you would agree to this, Doug, that we define those use cases so that we can build the solution to meet the use cases specifically for those schools and those districts, and quite frankly, for any other kind of campus environment. All right. I do want to just add, if you've hung in it with us this long, we will be sending this presentation, the recording, out to those who have previously registered for this event. And if you're watching this after we did this live session, if you would like the recording, don't hesitate, again, to reach out to any of us who shared our contact information. And we would love to speak to you live. And if that's not an option at the moment, again, happy to send this presentation out to you. I am going to wrap it up, and unless there's anybody on the panel that would like to throw their hat in on this last couple of minutes, I'm going to wrap it up, but I'll pause for a second to see if there is anybody else.
Hey, this is Mike. I just want to make sure, the most important thing is to keep the kids safe. So whatever it takes at your school site, whatever, do it. That's the most important thing. So,
Mike, that couldn't have been a better soundbite. Thank you. Thank you so much for that. That is, I couldn't agree more. There's so much to this that we could be talking about in terms of the technology, but you just got to the heart of the issue, and that is just keeping our kids safe is the objective and the most important thing. So thank you for that. All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a great rest of your day. And for those who participated as panelists, thank you all so much. And for those who jumped in last minute, thank you even more.